This is TOS Television, your digital-first Pan-African news network. I am Adesuwa Osuyi, and this is Africa Now. On Thursday, French Defense Minister Florence Parly met with Malian Transitional President Ba Ndo at the presidency in Bamako, alongside counterparts from Estonia and Czech Republic. A French airstrike near the remote village of Bounty killed 19 civilians in Mali on January 3rd, in circumstances that sparked controversy in this country, a UN report said on Tuesday, prompting a strong denial from France. The French Defense Ministry stood by its denial, saying it maintains with consistency and reaffirms strongly that an armed terrorist group had been identified and attacked. It also said it had numerous reservations about the methodology used in the investigation. Residents of the village said the strike hit a wedding party and killed civilians. In the incident's aftermath, France's minister said it had killed jihadists, not civilians, and also denied the presence of a wedding party in Bounty. Parly stated that all the fundamental principles aimed at preserving civilians have been applied, and she strongly reaffirms that on January 3rd, the French armed forces targeted a terrorist group that had been formally identified as such. Also, that there were no women or children among the victims, and that the airstrike was intended to neutralize terrorist elements. The deputy head of United Nations High Commission for Refugees in Ethiopia has been replaced. This comes after the government raised concerns about his impartiality over the conflict in Tigray. The exact concerns of the government are unclear. The Ethiopian authorities expressed concerns about one of our personnel. This happened at a time when the UNHCR had already engaged in internal discussion on the need to restructure and strengthen UNHCR's presence in Tigray in response to the evolving nature of the humanitarian situation. Given this, UNHCR made the decision to replace a staff member whose post was in the process of being modified, a statement to the BBC said. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed sent troops to Tigray in November after the Tigray People's Liberation Front TPLF seized military bases in the region. Hundreds of thousands of people are said to have been displaced in the conflict. The conflict has also affected about 100,000 Eritrean refugees who lived in UNHCR-run camps in Tigray. In December, the UNHCR had raised concerns about the safety of the refugees, saying it had received reports that they were being killed, abducted, and forcibly returned to Eritrea. Sudan has received a vote of approval on its transitional plan, including the gradual accommodation of former rebel fighters into the government, after a delegation of the African Union Peace and Security Council held sessions with leaders of the transitional government, now under Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok, and the verdict that was Khartoum was on track to ensure the country's full return to democracy. Team leader Jean Kamau, the Kenyan permanent representative to the African Union, told reporters in Khartoum that the council's mission to Sudan was to praise and assure support for Sudan. She added that the efforts that have been put in place are very important for the peace and security and show how African problems have been addressed by Africans. Sudan faces an ambitious plan to concentrate on its transitional plan, even as it remains with an unresolved border tiff with neighboring Ethiopia, as well as an unfinished dam filling agreement with Egypt and Ethiopia to ensure proper sharing of Nile waters. Internally, Sudan must build a transitional government of national unity, which will also include fighters who used to oppose the government in the south and southwestern regions of Darfur. It must prepare for elections by establishing key institutions and laws, and must also implement an economic policy that cushions civilians from further effects of COVID-19. The reconstituted Joint Monitoring and Evaluation Commission, International Observers stationed in South Sudan as part of the peace agreement, said conditions in the training camps are dire and need urgent attention in terms of proper food and shelter and appropriate hygiene facilities for female soldiers. Charles Tai Gitai, a retired Kenya Army general and interim chairperson of the RJMEC, in a statement said there has been no progress in any of the transitional security arrangement issues. The unification of forces has stalled, training has stalled, and no graduation of redeployment plans have been announced. He urged South Sudan government to adequately fund the transitional security arrangement, expedite and urgently complete the unification of the forces. A boat carrying 1,200 survivors displaced by last week's attack by militant Islamists on the northern Mozambican at 8 a.m. local time reached safety in the port of Pemba on Thursday. The ferry was organized by a French major oil and energy company. The displaced people, mostly women, children and the elderly, arrived on Wednesday evening, but for security reasons could only leave the vessel on Thursday morning after screening to check no infiltrators from the insurgents were among them. It is the largest single arrival of displaced civilians from Palma to a location outside the conflict zone. British national Philip Mawer, who has been missing since the attack, was likely also killed in the incident. His employer, RA International, said in a statement on behalf of his family, adding a body matching his description had been recovered but not formally identified. Many of the displaced people who disembarked will stay with relatives or friends in the already overcrowded city of Pemba, but those who have no acquaintances will stay in makeshift tents erected for them, according to the authorities. This is your Digital Affairs for African News Network, TOS Television. You're watching Africa Now. Up next, developments on COVID-19 and business after the break. Do stay tuned. Thank you for staying tuned. Oxfam, a UK charity, says it has suspended 2 of its members of staff in the Democratic Republic of Congo over allegations of sexual exploitation, and bullying. The charity said the suspensions were part of an external investigation set up last November into the allegations. The charity in 2018 was accused of covering up the use of prostitutes by some members of staff who were in the country following the devastating 2010 Haiti earthquake in 2010. Oxfam denied a cover-up but apologized for mistakes in its handling of the scandal, set up an independent commission into working practices, and stopped bidding for UK government funding. In its statement, Oxfam says the Charity Commission was notified at the start of the investigation of the latest allegations and is being kept informed about its progress. We are acutely aware of our duty to survivors, including in supporting them to speak out safely, and we are working hard to conclude the investigation fairly, safely and effectively, the charity said. To COVID-19 developments, the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine has been approved for use with certain conditions by the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority on Thursday. SAHPRA CEO Semete Makokotela stated that the vaccine has to be supplied and administered in accordance with the Department of Health COVID-19 vaccination plan and applicable guidelines. She added the vaccine is administered as a single dose by intramuscular injection to individuals over 18 years, adding that the vaccine could cause mild or moderate side effects such as pain at the injection site, headache, tiredness, muscle pain, and nausea, which will clear within a few days after vaccination. The head of Africa's disease control body has warned that India's temporary suspension of exports of AstraZeneca vaccine will undermine the inoculation plans of the continent, and this could have a dangerous effect if it is extended. It was recently announced by the Serum Institute of India that as many as 90 million doses of the jab destined for the COVAX initiative worldwide will be delayed till the end of April as the Indian government struggles with the increase in cases in the country. This week, reports said that India's goal is to make sure it could meet local demands. In a news conference held in Addis Ababa on Thursday, John Nkengasong, the director of the Africa Center for Disease Control and Prevention, said the hold will help in impacting the ability to continuously vaccinate people. He also hoped it was not a ban, as that will be catastrophic for meeting vaccination schedule. Nkengasong said the AU had planned to vaccinate 30 to 35% of the population on the continent by the end of the year. He also hopes that a deal announced on Monday for African countries to get the single-dose Johnson & Johnson vaccine remains a historic moment and a game changer. In business, following the suspension of activities at the Suez Canal caused by the container ship Ever Given that was struck in the waterway and blocking navigation for 6 days, Egypt's Suez Canal Authority Chairman Osama Rabi has said they will seek over $1 billion in compensation for the losses. The SCA chairman explained that the compensation demanded by the authority is not only for the financial losses caused by the 6-day navigation suspension, but includes the expenses of using dredgers and tugboats and the physical damage caused during the salvage process. Egypt resumed navigation in the canal several hours after the stranded container ship was rescued early Monday, after which many of the 422 ships that have been kept waiting started to cross the waterway. By Saturday at most, all 422 delayed ships will have crossed the Suez Canal, according to Rabi. The Revenue Service says South Africa collected 1.25 trillion rand in tax revenue in the financial year ended March 2021, which is around 12% less than the government's original target of 1.425 trillion rand. The South African Revenue Service said improved economic activity, higher collection company tax and greater tax compliance had helped in reducing the shortfall. The National Treasury set the initial target for 2020-2021 before the pandemic happened. They revised the estimate down to 1.112 trillion rand in October, but then upped it to 1.212 trillion rand in the February 2021 budget. This is your Digital First Pan-African News Network, TOS Television. You're watching Africa Now. More business news after the break. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. The head of the International Monetary Fund and the African Caucus said that Africa needs carefully calibrated domestic policies and stronger support from the international community to recover from the COVID-19 crisis and return to its path of stronger growth. IMF's Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva and the chairman of the Africa Caucus put out a statement after a meeting of the African Consultative Group, which includes senior representatives from 12 countries, in Africa. They said the main goal is to increase COVID-19 vaccine production capacity and accelerate vaccine rollout, but it was also important to prioritize policies that will help protect livelihoods and vulnerable groups. They added that while North Africa, a region rich in oil, was expected to grow faster, the recovery was likely to be much slower in sub-Saharan Africa. They called for transformative policies, including increased investment in digital technologies and climate-resilient infrastructure. The executive board of the IMF has approved the purchase of about $270.83 million to Namibia under the Rapid Financing Instrument (RFI). This purchase will help the country in addressing urgent balance of payments and fiscal financing needs stemming from the negative effects of the pandemic. The financing will also contribute to catalyzing additional financing from development partners. The country has been badly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Namibia's short-term macroeconomic outlook has been worsened by global conditions and a local outbreak. It has also hindered mining exports, tourism, investment inflows, and weighed on tax revenues. The Namibian economy is estimated to have sharply contracted by 7.2% in 2020, and the recovery is set to remain subdued at 2.1% in 2021. The purchase will provide needed financing to support the authorities' implementation of the response to the COVID-19 crisis, including the purchase of vaccines and deployment of the vaccination campaign, and intervention needed to mitigate the pandemic's severe socioeconomic impact. Important parts include making emergency health better, strengthening social safety nets to protect the most vulnerable from the impact of the crisis, and supporting the private sector and protecting jobs. And that is Africa Now. For more updates, do visit our website at www.tostvnetwork.com. Do also follow and like our social media handles on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And remember to subscribe on YouTube. Do stay with us and enjoy more programs on TOS Television Network. My name is Adesuwa Osuyi. Thanks for watching.